name is Jimmy Gama. I am the National Treasurer of AMCU. Let me first extend our apology for arriving at this time. Well, sometimes we get advices, so we believe the advice. However, when we got the information that you've already arrived, so we felt that the advice was misleading, but we learn for future. Thank you very much for availing yourself in this agent invitation to attend this media briefing, which we saw it necessary under the circumstances which we find ourselves in as AMCU. Before we get to the details, I want to introduce to you the comrades that are sitting here in front of yourself so that you know all of them. On my right-hand side is Comrade Dumisani Kalibana, who is our national organizer. On my far left is Comrade Ponso, who is our regional secretary in Rustenburg region. And between Comrade Ponso and the president is Comrade Ndima Koba, who is our regional chairperson in the Rustenburg region. And of course, in the middle is our comrade who is well known to all of you, who doesn't need any introduction, but for the purpose of formality is Comrade President, Comrade Mathunjwa, who will be delivering the press statement on behalf of the organization. We've got, before maybe I allow the President to come to the podium, may I get the introduction from all the people that are present here, so to get to know each other, and the newspapers or the radio stations that you are representing. We've got our, thank you very much. Let me start on my right-hand side. You can introduce yourself.
Oh, sorry, it's Helen Isolo from Power FM. Should I wait for you to write? Oh, sorry, I'm Teto Mahlakwana from Independent Newspapers.
Okay.
Paul Burkhart with Bloomberg News.
Luton Tana, also Bloomberg News.
Who?
Luton.
Yes.
Carl Ganeski, BDFM.
Jan de Lange, Media 24.
Zandi Shabalala from Reuters News.
Yes.
Makwena Bidira.
Type of my wife from SABC Radio.
Okay. Well done. Thank you very much. Once again, we thank you for coming to this media briefing. I will then hand over to the President to go straight to the statement.
Thank you, and good morning once more. Press statement 20 April 2015. Colin Petler, AMCU Regional Chairperson of Health and Safety Desk, murdered in Rustenburg. It is with sadness and disappointment and heavy hearts that we report about the untimely murder of our Regional Chairperson of Health and Safety Desk, Mr. Colin Petler. This brutal assassination of Colin in Rustenburg is immensely regrettable, as it has robbed a family of a breadwinner, a husband, a father, a son, and a brother. The late Comrade Colin was recently elected into the position during elective regional congress, which was held from the 9th to the 10th of October 2014 at Kalaga Estate in Midrand. According to the report we received from the family, The late Colin was brutally murdered by unknown gunmen at his house this past Saturday evening on the 18th of April 2015. He was shot with 2 bullets, 1 bullet at the back of his head and another hitting his back. He then died later after he was rushed into Impala Mine Hospital in Rustenburg. The police were immediately notified to attend and investigate the murder. So far, there is 1 person that has been brought in for questioning. This follows a series of murder assassination of AMCU members and leadership who have been gunned down dating back from 2012. Despite the information provided to the law enforcement, no arrest has been made with regard to individual cases. To name the few: Stephen Mawetu murdered in Rustenburg, who was an AMCU organizer in 2012. Tobela Sihlome murdered in Rustenburg Lonmin in 2012. Lucas Mampuko murdered in Limpopo Beresford under Glencoe in 2013. Leon Mabilu murdered in Limpopo Beresford in Glencoe Mine 2013. Zwelicha Makobola murdered in Rustenburg in Lonmin in 2013. Mahamba murdered in Rustenburg at Impala 2013. Tobile Qhina murdered in Rustenburg at Lonmin 2013. Bongani Mehlenkomo murdered in Rustenburg, Lonmin, Platinum Mines 2014. Shaido Ngetani murdered in Northern Anglo Platinum in 2014. Maweng murdered months ago in Orkney under Anglo Gold Ashanti 2015. These murders or assassination undermine the constitutional democracy of our country as they contravene AMCU members the right to freedom of association, which is a fundamental principle enshrined in our constitution. AMCU condemns these murders as they deprive the nation of great leaders and deliberately attack the very being of AMCU as an organization. We want to appeal again to the law enforcement agencies involved in these cases to leave no stone unturned in the investigation of these murders. We rely on the law enforcement agencies to ensure that the murderers are brought to book. We call upon all AMCU members to remain calm during this trying time for our organization and to allow the law to take its course. On behalf of the NEC, all our region, and the entire membership, as President of AMCU, I take this opportunity to convey our greatest condolences to the Collins' wife, children, family members, friends, and colleagues who, for the loss of our great hero, let us put all our faith unto God, who is the provider of everything. Even during this sad and painful moment, His mercy shall never fade upon us. The late comrade will be remembered as one of the young and talented leader of AMCU, who was showing sign of great potential in the quest for the fight for the safe working environment. He had great passion for health and safety at the workplace. As AMCU, we were still expecting a lot from him as a leader in the region. He shall be dearly missed. His blood will nourish the revolution and the entire plight of the working class rights. May his soul rest in peace. The detail of Colin laying to rest will be communicated to all our comrades and all his colleagues after the family has made the final arrangement. Concerted effort to deal with AMCU and its leadership. As the 2015 round of wage negotiations for the gold sector approaches, we are aware that there is a concerted effort and plan to deal with AMCU by some in the mining sector. We are aware that our meetings are being spied upon and our leadership is followed wherever they go. We believe the purpose is to discredit and bring demise to the AMCU leadership, as it happened on March 2015 with our President Mathunjwa being accused as a CIA spy or agent. On various occasions from last year, our national leadership have experienced a constant surveillance while traveling to engage with our AMCU members in different destinations. We would like to inform those working to intimidate us that AMCU leadership is not frightened. We still believe in upholding our revolutionary cause, which aims to emancipate African workers from slave wages and unfair distribution of wealth. No to xenophobic attacks. As AMCU, we condemn the recent xenophobic attacks against our fellow African brothers and sisters, which have resulted in the loss of many lives across the breadth of our country. Fellow South Africans need to realize that no amount of attacks on the neighbors or our black sisters in the continent that will change our economic situation. We need to work together to better the economic situation in our country. We call on our government to scrap all apartheid economic policies in our country. Therefore, we believe that the progressive economic policies that favor the poor and the working class, culminating employment opportunities informed by a wage-led economy, will bring about equality and economic stability that our people are desperate for. The informal sector of our economy, in bracket SMME, is not regulated and has a low tax base, hence is exploited by those with a startup capital. Therefore, we call on the government to regulate the sector and to avail a startup capital to our potential SMME entrepreneurs. We further call upon the SADC and the African Union to follow suit and grow the economy for the benefit of the entire continent. As AMCU, we believe that a wage-led economy will seek to address the inequalities and the wage gap. Statutes. It is ironical that the Minister of Higher Education supports the removal of a colonial statue, notable that of the Cecil Rhodes at the University of Cape Town. Yet, miners at Lonmin Platinum in 2012-16 August were massacred by the government fighting to eradicate the legacy of the very same Cecil John Rhodes. The removal of statues is symbolic in nature. The real pragmatics is about the progressive economic reforms in this country. Our AMCU, our land, our economy, our power, our way. Amandla! Thank you very much.
That leads us to the end of the address by the President, and we will now allow the opportunity for questioning, and we will directly deal with those sessions. Yes.
Okay, thanks. Firstly, my question was he receiving any threats? I know that Satawu leaders have received threats. And then also, what's interesting, the NUM was saying that the mining industry, because of unions, they've largely been able to overcome issues of xenophobia and tribalism. Perhaps you can just talk about your experiences around that. Thank you.
The second question, the AMCU?
Oh, they've been able to like together with other progressive forces, they've been able to ensure that people get on with whatever country they come from, mine workers. So perhaps just your comments of what you've experienced in the mining industry. Thank you.
No, I mean, I didn't get your first question, and then the second question, are you referring to xenophobic or what?
Yes.
No, we haven't experienced any xenophobic at the in the mining sector as of yet. But I think we called upon the government that they must speedily resolve this, because I mean any forces can utilize that space, of which that could be detrimental to the economy of the country.
And then did he receive any threats, like before he was killed?
Before
He was killed.
the comrade
Yeah.
you were referring to? No, we don't know about that there was any threat or so forth.
Yes.
Can you give us more details of, you mentioned that you were being watched and that you are being spied upon. Can you give us more details about that? And secondly, this murder is one, as you've read, in a long list against AMCU members, but there are also, among other unions, indications in COSATU of violence. With the events in COSATU, one can expect more conflict. Shouldn't there be preventive steps being taken by the labour movement as a whole to make provision and trying to prevent violence in labour relations? Maybe through NEDLAC.
The first one, it's one cannot maybe give more details, but we know for the fact that in few meetings that we had in Cape Town, in one particular hotel we were formed, and we did experience that we've been followed right into the hotel. And then also at the airport, we did experience such that there were people who were watching us, whichever angle we were moving. So there is such a concerted effort to spy on us. In our meetings are taped, whether it could be in the mass meetings. And then with the second question, I think we are supposed to be calling, I mean, a meeting that will be inclusive with all trade unions. But I think the challenge will be COSATU, they don't regard any union that is not part of them as a union in South Africa. That's an unfortunate situation. And two, it is proper that the issue of the killings of the leaders, whether could it be in COSATU or other union, it should be condemned. And furthermore, I should think also the government should kind of assisting the leaders of the trade unions, because it shows clear that they are vulnerable, and they also contribute to the economy of the country. They are a state to be recognized in terms of protection. That is what we can propose as AMCU. That it shouldn't be just only the ministers and whoever, the MEC who's in the government, but also I should think maybe the leaders of the trade unions, the government should take it very seriously to see how can they assist in terms of protection.
Yes.
On the issue of the upcoming wage negotiations in board, have you formulated your wage demands that you're going to be putting forward to the employers this time around? Is the 12,500 demand still the running call, so to speak, this year as well? And your approach to the negotiations generally? Can you talk a bit about that, how you plan to approach this year's negotiations? Because I remember last year you first submitted demands to the individual mining houses, and then later went to the chamber and so on. Just some comments about how you plan to approach the negotiations this year.
I think the wage negotiations and demands, it's a mandate from our members. There will be no change of approach. Whatever our members are demanding, that is what we are going to put before the employers. So therefore, I mean, whether it's 12,500, whether it's 24,500, it's immaterial. Whatever mandate that is given to us, that is the one that is going to be tabled before the employers.
So you haven't formulated, you haven't decided on demands yet, and when are you planning to submit your demands by?
During this, towards the end of the month, they will be submitted. The demands, they will be submitted.
Thank you. Further questions? Yes.
Yes, AMCU, participates in the Mine Crime Combating Forum. Just what's your experience of this scheme in terms of diffusing the tension and perhaps avoiding violence against union leaders? And I mean, you mentioned that there's been no arrest other than this one person who's been detained. What's your perception of why the police hasn't been able to follow through or prosecute any individuals? And if you, and to add on to that, if you maintain you're being followed, I'm not saying if you think this is the government, what's your willingness to cooperate with intelligence agencies on issues of violence and inter-union rivalry?
You'll remember that those combat crime forums in Rustenburg, AMCU is not part of it, and was not invited. I think you'll remember that it's head by COSATU or Alliance with the investigators unit that was dealing with the violence at Rustenburg. So we are not part of that. So we cannot be in a position to comment. But I think the writings are on the wall. That just to mention about 10 or 11 of the matters that I've read to you, no arrest has been made to date.
Sorry, just to add on to that, just a clarification, because AMCU is a signatory of the Framework for Peace and Stability in the mining sector.
That is common cause that we are not signatory of that.
Sorry, not the sustainability, the Peace and Stability Framework.
Yes, that was headed by the DMR. You remember those days during the then Ms. Susan Shabam, I think. Yes, yes, we did sign it.
Yes, and sure, I was under the impression that those forms were part of that agreement. That you would meet, I think.
Yes, but we were not informed. We were not even invited to it.
I wanted to follow up a question that was asked earlier on the safety of union leaders and middle leaders as well, what you could call middle management. You mentioned that you think government should look at sponsoring some sort of security to union leaders as they contribute to the economy and so forth. Now what I wonder is how then do we make sure that union leaders who are in regional levels and lower, whose lives are equally at stake, are then protected if you limit this protection only to union leaders?
No, I was not, is not the position. I was suggesting that the government is something that should, but the details of it, I'm not saying the leader of a president of a union is more important than the life of a staff steward at the branch level. I'm not suggesting that at all. I was just posing that these are the things that should be looked at.
Yes.
CPC. With 11 matters within such a short space of time, do you, as AMCU, have suspects? Have you been talking with the police in terms of who could be behind this?
Even though that one can say, especially with the issue of Comrade Steve Mawetu, I mean, that was escalated even to the then Minister of Police, Natim Tetwa, with all the information of the suspect, but they've done nothing.
So you don't know who's behind it?
I might not know him, but the information was given to the Ministry of Law Enforcement to investigate, but nothing has happened.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask if you had any comment, back to wage negotiations, if you had any comment on Goldfields having their own sort of settlement with workers, and you know if you have an opinion on that, and you know how you see that in terms of collective bargaining, and I mean, what's your view on that? You must have some members at South Deep.
I think one can just simply say the concluded wage agreement at Goldfield outside the Chamber of Mine. It only confirms what we told you, that the Chamber of Mine is not a bargaining council. It's just a forum created by the employer. It's an employer organization. So I think that it confirms that AMCU was correct from last year, from 2013, 2014, to say we are not recognizing Chamber of Mine. Because Chamber of Mine, you'll remember, is an institute of Cecil Rhodes, one can say. So therefore, we were not recognizing, and we'll never ever recognize it. So I mean, Goldfields is just confirming that the workplace is where the workers are working, and then Chamber of Mine is just a forum. It's a gentleman's forum that was created for the convenient purposes.
Yes.
On the wage negotiations, do you have an idea of what representation, how many members at coal mines do you have at the moment?
In as much as we are still doing our own audit, but the figures that were presented by Chamber of Mine suggesting that we are less than 20%. No, but I mean as AMCU that we are less than 20,000. It's not true. And then they also mentioned that there are about 90,000 or 95,000 employees in total in gold. And they further suggest that NUM is still a majority with 54%, of which, if currently AMCU is above 38,000, while we are still continuing, so then it raised a serious concern about the state that is coming from Chamber of Mine.
The Chamber says you're 28,000, you says you're more.
Yes, I mean, we are more than that. I would say plus minus 40,000.
Yes.
Sorry, just for clarity, what's your stance then going into these negotiations if you don't accept the Chamber of Mines as an institution? Can you just clarify how you'll be treating these negotiations? And if you are disputing these figures, how are you going to raise this issue? Because I know obviously in the previous round of negotiations, the issue of membership became extremely important when you went to court. So just clarify, please, how are you going to raise this issue of the membership?
I think we had a meeting with Chamber of Mines, and then we've made it clear that we don't like their venue. We must have a neutral venue, and we must have a neutral chairperson who's going to lead the wage negotiations. And then we raised the issue of membership, that we don't agree with their figures that has been presented to us. And then we had a week ago a follow-up meeting with Chamber of Mine, and then we presented our position and our figures, of which Ms. Radom was taken aback, and then he suggested that all the mining house must be present in the meeting because they are the one that need to answer, because she only reacts on the information that is presented before before her by those companies. So then he referred us back to the workplace because he realized that it's not a bargaining council. So therefore, we will be engaging with the different mining houses or workplaces to deal with the issue of membership.
Yes, Andre.
What is the situation right now at Northern Platinum? I know you said your members weren't allowed in their hostels, et cetera, at some point, the last press conference you guys had.
Yes, we're still in dispute with Northern Platinum. As you know, that our members are prevented by NUM members to use the hostel. Hence, then they had to find themselves an alternative accommodation outside. And the mine is not prepared to address such challenges.
But people are still working there?
Yes, we are still working there. But our leaders are facing a very challenging situation at the mine. Some of them, they are suspended for no apparent reason.
Sorry, can you just clarify your previous answer? You presented figures to the chamber, to Elise Stradon, that were very different from their service.
Yes.
And then you decided, then it was agreed that you will go back to the workplace. In other words, will you go and negotiate at the workplace based on your...
No, the workplace means the responsible representative of each mine will be dealing with the figures.
Individually, but not the,
yes.
But not the negotiation.
Not for the negotiation.
You will bargain centers.
Yes, and then, but we did ask the issue of gold fields, and then they said yes, each and every CEO does have the right to pull out, to write to them and say he wants to negotiate at the workplace. Very interesting.
But you can't pull out.
Who? Us? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Meaning last year's example.
To us, it's just a venue. As we stated clearly, that it's not a bargaining council. If the employers suggest to convene in an A venue for their own kind of easy reference, so therefore it's a venue to us. That doesn't suggest that we are recognizing Chamber of Mine. But we will submit our demands per operation.
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Dan from AMCU News. I'd just like you to please elaborate on how a wage-led economy would emancipate workers' rights and the plight of the workers.
The wage-led economy is the wage that will put more money in the pockets of the working class. And as you know, that the more money you put in your pocket, it stimulates the economy. And then by stimulating the economy, the demand is high and the spending is high. So, but if the workers, they don't have money, the economy cannot be easily stimulated.
I think we are done with all the Q&As.
Can I just ask a last one?
Oh, okay.
Just an update on your meeting with NUMSA. Any plans for that to go ahead? They say that they've written to you. Thanks.
No, we haven't received any invitation from NUMSA for a meeting. The only meeting or the only invitation was for the socialism, convention for the socialism.
Yes. Thank you very much. We appreciate if you need a statement, we have your communicate in terms of the emails. We will forward those statements to you within 10 minutes after finishing this press conference, so that you will have access to the statement. Thank you very much.
10 minutes.
Thank you.
I'm coming.